Dom, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Not bad. It's time for another movie talk.
Yeah, we picked an appropriate one for winter.
I know, and what a movie for winter too, because um, rewatching this, I don't know what your reaction was watching it. I need to find out, but
Do.
but yeah, why don't you do the intro and then we'll go
So this
into
is Fargo, the 1996 Coen Brothers movie
the Coen
involved.
brothers. Yes,
Yeah, Coen
yeah.
Brothers. Our first Coen Brothers movie, and
I know,
probably
and I
not our
love the
last,
Coen brothers. Yeah, yeah.
involving uh uh deceit and malfeasance in Minnesota.
Yes.
And that's the first lie. Like this is a movie about lies. The first lie
Oh
is
yeah.
Fargo.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah. Oh
one
yeah.
scene in
Yeah.
Fargo.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there it is. It's totally about lies, deceit, and and it's a sad movie in a lot of ways.
It really is. Like
It's
I gotta say, it's branded as a black comedy.
yeah,
There's some depressing stuff in here.
it's there the comedy is very funny, but at the same time, my God, like the opening scenes when you start watching this movie, and I mean, it's all about it, everything is white, it's bleak, it's in fog, it's just it's all bleak and sadness, and you're
I,
like,
I,
oh
I gotta say, there are some unnamed cast members in this movie,
yeah,
and one of them is the framing, the scenes, and they're
oh,
so monochromatic.
yeah, yeah.
There's a starkness to this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's so stark. It's so stark and so bleak. I mean, you can really understand why people have committed suicide and gotten cabin fever in places like this because I mean, hey, listen, I live in New England area and we know about our winters here. They've
Yep.
been much more milder in recent years, but we know our winters, and my God, this is like it's worse because it's like flatland, it's open fields, and just it's so the landscape is so bleak. At least with New England, you've got a lot of pine trees. You've got some stuff that you're looking at, but here it's like it's nothing. It's just
It's
utter
black, it's
stark.
white, it's gray.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's a perfect backdrop for this movie.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, like I said, everything about the winter cold and the it's all what you want to see. What you want to see is this. You want to see you want to see balmy breeze and and rolling surf and palm trees after that. It's just like, man, it's too much. But
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
necessarily need that, but I need to be able to go outside without
yeah.
risk of the elements ending my life.
Yeah, and believe me, that's exactly what happens. Although you got in this movie, you also have people that are going to end your life if you're not careful, and that's the other thing is the cast. The great William H Macy is in this, and he is so good as a sleazy,
He's
but
amazing in everything that he does.
yeah, yes,
But at
yeah,
the
he
same time, he is also a little depressing in
oh, he's
everything
very.
he
Oh my
does.
God, he's depressing. He's such a sad sack.
Yes.
He's this guy that he's a loser, dude. And I mean, his father-in-law is a complete and utter ass. But
Yep.
but you also can kind of understand a little bit why the father-in-law wouldn't necessarily trust him with giving him money or even being married to his daughter because he is. I mean, he's got a lot of shady stuff going on.
This is once again a movie
Yeah.
where the cast are just horrible people.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yes.
Mason is a guy that's conniving. He's not smart.
No.
He creates a
No.
plan that is due,
Yeah.
and yet he doesn't care.
No,
But
no.
likewise, the father-in-law,
Oh
he
yeah.
doesn't care. He cares more about the money than his daughter.
Oh, absolutely. He's really bitching and whining about the fact that it's $1 million, and how do I know I'm going to get my daughter back? That's $1 million. That's a lot of money. And it's
Mhm.
like, because at one point during one of their conversations, the father says to him, "Well, don't worry about my daughter and and my grandson. They'll be taken care of." It's like, not you, but they'll be taken care of. So again, and the premise for this, in case anybody hasn't picked up on it, William H Macy, he's kind of the central character. He's in trouble. He owes a lot of money that his wife and father-in-law do not know about. He works at a dealership. I assume the father probably owns the dealership and he just works there. I never did quite get that, but at any rate, he's really against it. He's borrowed something like, what is it, 375,000?
Well, the thing is I gotta say, in the story, it's really vague what he needs the money
No,
for.
they don't really tell you. They
And
don't tell you.
you know,
Yeah. No, it's just that he's in trouble. He's obviously been making bad financial choices, very bad. But you when you owe 375,000 on a debt, and obviously he didn't even have the cars to back it. So he made up a fake loan package, which he does not have the cars, and he's being threatened by the bank. They're going to recall the loan. He needs this money. He's in desperate trouble.
he's against the
And
wall.
right, yeah. But he
Like
comes up with
the
the
desperation bleeds through the screen.
yeah, oh, absolutely. And that's one of the things. You've got the stark weather and cinematography of winter, and then you've got him, and you can see, you just feel the desperation in this guy's voice. But he comes up with the stupidest plan to kidnap his wife, and he's got a shady guy working at the Proudfoot dude, who's actually probably a lot better than the two that he hires.
So the
But
two he hires, like he has no idea who they are.
no,
And
no.
they're the worst people.
Oh yeah, the absolute worst people. And yeah, right away he gets into this huge mess with these two guys. Um, the again, the great Steve Buscemi on the left there. He's absolutely fantastic. He is much of the comedy that's in this. He's
Mhm.
really funny. But
He is definitely a big part of the star power in this.
oh yeah, absolutely. And actually, I mean, this movie would not have been the same movie without him putting in the comedic genius
Mhm.
that he always brings to a movie. But and this is the setup scene where he meets stolen car from the dealership that he gives them for a down. I don't know how he was like getting rid of that car on paper because he gives them the car.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, he's like the executive sales manager or something. So I'm
yeah.
sure he's some leeway to like
Oh yeah.
make
Yeah.
some magic paperwork happen.
Well, the other thing is this story, the time that this story is set in, it's the cars and everything about like what's going on with the dealership is it's so much a part of the time because that whole thing with the true coat, he keeps trying to sell that true, that was a real thing for a while.
Oh
they
yeah.
don't they don't do that at dealerships anymore, but as far as I know. But the cars were rusting out like crazy from like the late 60s into the 70s. The cars were not being dipped or painted properly. I think the metal was probably really inferior metal. And I mean, I don't care what you had, a car or a truck,
Well, I
it was
mean,
going to
you're also
rust.
driving. I mean, a place like Fargo, just like Maine,
Oh
where
yeah.
I grew up, you
Yep.
know, there's so much salt being put down on the roads during the
Yeah.
winter that
Oh yeah. Yeah.
you've got
Rust.
constant erosion.
Yeah. Rust is a real issue. However, the cars made today, for one thing, the dipping process, whatever the chemical, uh, you know, process they put on the vehicles when they paint them. It's much better today than it was you don't see cars that were maybe 5, 6 years old. It wasn't the engines and the drivetrains, they'd run forever. What was killing the cars was the damn corrosion. You'd have a car, all the fenders are all rotted out, and the frames are rotten out, and it was just so bad. And I that's something I really remember from those times. But yeah,
It's funny, we're talking about this as long ago, those times. This period of time does not seem that long ago to me.
it doesn't to me either, but it was.
It's almost 40 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, which is crazy. And you look at the cars too, in this movie. They're so boxy. There was no, like one of the things before this time in the 70s, the 60s, the cars had style. They had shape, form. They were artistic looking. It was something. It was a work of art when you look at some of the look at 50s cars, and that's come back. You see nice lines. I have got a Subaru Forester, which I love, and I mean even that people call that ugly. I consider them to be like really nicely. They're to me they're a nice station wagon, and there's nice form to it. But my God, look at the cars in the '80s. It was just awful. Late '70s, '80s, even into the '90s. It was just really as bleak as that landscape is. And then you go into a dealer, and of course, what have you got in the dealership? You've got these guys trying to sell through coat or undercoating for the car and adding it on so they can get an extra profit. And that's another thing that he had going on was that. But yeah, like I said, he's definitely up against it. He's kind of a shyster at the dealership. He's just a shyster in his life. So
Now, now creating the polar opposite of almost everyone in this movie
right.
are these two.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And first of all, again, the really terrific Frances McDormand. She is so good. She is so good in this,
She
and
is, but I
she's
gotta say, you gotta give it up for John Carroll Lynch.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. No,
I've loved him in everything I've seen him in.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. As a couple, these two, they're the pure heart people in this movie. They really
Mhm.
are. And I mean, he's an artist. He's just a nice guy. He loves his wife. She's pregnant. She's a cop. She's pregnant, and he's so caring about her. He gets up, makes her breakfast before she leaves, and he's just like really, they look out for each other. And in the middle of all of this is how harsh everybody else is in this story,
Mhm.
and these two like they're like the innocents in the whole thing.
And this is another reason why I say the framing in the movie is an unsung hero. When you see these two are always in frame together.
Yeah, yeah,
And almost every other character
yeah,
is alone.
yeah. That's true. Even at the even I mean even at the very end of the movie when they're talking, and that's one of the scenes that I really love at the very end as it's closing out after all the violence, after all of the stuff you see going on. There's the scene of them together, and they're talking, and she goes, we're doing all right, we're doing okay. He had just his he had gotten the award for getting it was a 3 cent stamp that he had done the artwork on the stamp, and he goes, well, it's just a 3 cent. And she goes, honey, that the 3 cents, people use that all the time when the
Really deal.
yeah, yeah, it's a stamp. I'd be really happy myself. But at any rate, they're supporting each other. They're loving, and that last shot, that's another. You're right. That last shot of them together,
Mhm.
they're laying in bed talking, and they just have this sweetness about their relationship. It's
Well,
just nice.
even when she is ruminating on the whole case, she's like, what was that all about? It was just about money. Like,
Yeah,
how would
yeah.
anyone do all that for money?
Oh yeah. Well, and that's another thing. I love when she does that. She's talking to this guy who's probably the most harsh guy of all. in the movie. He's hilarious in the sense of how truly you know, the Coen brothers a lot of times have one villain that's like really the real heavy, and he's it in this movie. But she's
I gotta
talking
say, I would put him. I would love to see a matchup between his character and the guy from No
Javier Badam,
Country.
yeah, from No Country for Old Men. I think Javier Badam would probably take him out, but it would be a tough fight because this guy truly was a badass.
This
And
guy is almost reptilian.
oh my God. And it's the exchanges between him and Steve Buscemi are great.
Mhm.
The whole thing that you know this guy is like Mr. Silent, doesn't talk. Steve Buscemi is going on and on chatting away.
They're
And
like an evil Laurel and Hardy.
yes, yeah, yeah, that's a great analogy right there. They are. The scene where he keeps wanting pancakes, I guess, and he goes, hey, he goes, let's stop and get some girls tonight, and he's like, pancakes, and he goes, we had pancakes this morning, yeah, but yeah, it's like I said, the exchanges were hysterical. So
Oh, and that reminds me. Another of the unsung cast members
yeah,
were the accents.
oh my God, I love
Like
the
this
accent.
scene leans heavily on the accents. And the
Yeah,
reason you
yeah,
reminded me of that is the accent coach they hired for this movie
right.
who played one of the girls they got.
Oh, really? Yeah,
One of
yeah.
those women was the accent coach for this movie.
Really? Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. That the scene with the two girls is absolutely hysterical.
Oh,
It's
hilarious.
when they're talking and the police chief there. She's asking like you know what was there anything that stood out? And they're like, well, he was just you know just funny looking, you know,
Yeah.
in, in a general way. And then and then she brings up the thing about she goes, well, he was uncircumcised, and yeah, so so yeah, like I said, there were so many things that were, but yeah, these two were great as the two dumb the two dumb dates that they picked up at the bar. But
Mhm.
uh, but yeah, like I said, it's so. Do you know which one of the two was the?
I don't like,
Yeah,
you know, I did some research, obviously,
yeah.
but I do have limits to my
Oh,
research that I can
oh, of
do
course.
in
Yeah.
like a few days that we
Well,
actually.
and I don't think either one of them was in. It was in anything else of note anyway. That I can think of.
And
But
it
yeah,
might
they
not
were.
be one of those. I know there was also a scene where Buscemi
Yeah,
is with a girl at a club and they're watching someone sing.
yeah.
And it might have been that scene.
Right.
I don't remember if it was one of these two in that scene or if it was a totally different woman.
Yeah, yeah. No. Like I said, it's uh, Steve Buscemi. Every time he had a an interaction with somebody, it was you know it turned into something really funny. Just the way he spoke, and yeah, the accents were that they were a big star of this movie
Oh, yeah.
because yeah, like this guy here, you know, that when he's describing the whole thing about he says, yeah, this guy comes into my bar and he's asking me, hey, where can I get some action? And he goes, I'm asking him like, what kind of action you mean? And he goes, I guess you think I'm a big dummy for like asking you. And just so yeah, I mean that whole exchange was hysterical. And every time you'd hear one of these people speaking, you go around, you tend to go around after watching the movie, you want to talk to people and you know and speak with the same accents. But
People in the city of Fargo
yeah,
have said that after this movie, they constantly get tourists that come into town and
yeah,
say, "Oh, can you say you betcha?"
yeah, yeah, you betcha. uh, yeah, no, believe me, like I said, that was a huge thing. The setting for this was just perfect. I mean, you couldn't have had a more perfect place for to set a mood and to have people that were you know like of a place and a an area that people know that accent. They know that, and especially now after this movie, they really do. But yeah, like I said, it's just everything about this winter setting and in a place where people speak with a very distinct accent. Yeah, it comes into it comes into your mind when you think of this movie immediately. You're like, oh, Fargo. You
Yeah,
betcha.
it's hard not to say the accent.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I've watched this movie a few times with other people, and you find yourself, looking at the across the room and saying something with an accent.
So I gotta ask,
Yeah.
somewhat of a tangent. You've seen the movie a few times. We love the movie.
Yes.
How about the TV show?
I saw season one.
Oh, okay.
I have seen season one. I don't know how many seasons they got up to.
They
Um,
just came out with five, or they just ended five. I don't remember
Really.
which.
Yeah, because I saw season one and I liked it. And I remember, I think it was Alicia that was telling me you should really check it out. It's quality TV. And I was like, yeah, I probably will. And I don't know what happened. It was this again a number of years ago, but I saw season one and I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. I'll have to check out season two. And for some reason, I just kind of lost track.
Oh, there's so
Um,
many things always coming up.
yeah, yeah. I find it hard with, people will start talking about a TV series that's out, and I'll be like, oh yeah, yeah, I got to watch that. But I mean, between movies and TV, I only have so much time in my life. I mean, I'm still working. I work full time. It's hard to find time for for all that. But yeah, I definitely need to revisit it. I keep
Mhm.
saying I want to rewatch the. I know you said you don't, you're not into the Sopranos, but which I think is blasphemy. But 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 I would love to rewatch that whole series. It was to me it was a great series, and with a really talented cast and just you know so like I said, this is one I've got to get into and I don't know how you could compare this this movie to the series now because the series is a thing.
Yeah, I don't know if you can. I mean, it's like comparing, a photograph to a painting.
Right,
They're
right.
such different medias.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. You're not gonna get the same feeling as and I don't know, are the Coen brothers even involved with the
They are.
oh,
There
that's
was actually after the movie came out, about a year or two later,
right.
they tried to make a TV series. And I
Yeah,
think a few episodes actually aired,
yeah,
but it didn't go anywhere. And now this more recent one that came out in the last few years,
yeah.
that does involve the Coen brothers. The first
Okay,
one did not.
okay, all right. Yeah, because I think the season one that I saw, I have no idea if that was and I mean it's all part of it, right? It's
It's
like
set in the same universe as they say.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Because the didn't it start out with the guy hiding money by the fence? Was that the
The
um
series.
yeah, the TV series, and
Oh,
which I think he's supposed to be like Steve Buscemi, because that's another thing is there's a whole thing with the part of what William H Macy is doing is he's telling the two kidnappers, wannabe kidnappers, that he's going to give them the ransom money, which I think goes up to 80,000. Eventually, they demand
told them
more.
80,000, and he told the father-in-law 1 million.
Yes, so he was going to keep the rest of the
Right.
money, and of course that goes south very quickly. But I pulled up this scene behind me here because this was one of the comedic moments. She gets a call one night from, and it turns out he's an old classmate of hers, and apparently he had a crush on her. I never did quite get whether he was pulling her leg about his wife dying, like really dying, because he started at one point he starts crying
Oh,
and
he
saying,
totally. He was
"Yeah,
never married.
what's that?"
He was never married.
Yeah, yeah, that was it was total bullshit.
And he
So
was totally bullshitting her.
yeah, so it was, but it's so funny because she's innocent enough that she goes there thinking, oh yeah, an old classmate, and he wants to meet up, and they just go to a little buffet place, and she sits down, and next thing you know, he sits right next to her. He's right on top of her, and
Do
he goes,
you mind if I sit next
yeah,
to
yeah,
you?
like I
I
hope you
kind of
don't mind.
do.
Yeah, yeah. She's like, I'd rather you sit over there. And she's so nice about it too. She's like, there, this way we don't have to crane our necks. Yeah. But but yeah, like I said, that scene is so funny because it comes out of nowhere.
It does, but I gotta say, I find it like it's a great scene.
It is. It
I
is.
have a hard time finding its connection to the rest of the movie.
Well, I think that's something the Coen brothers do though. A lot of times the Coen brothers seem to throw scenes at you that are disconnected with everything else, and they'll throw something kind of odd at you in the middle of one of their movies, and it almost takes you out of the movie a little bit, or pulls you to the side, but sometimes it even tells you things about the characters, and I think it did tell you things about her, because she's basically this very sweet, little naive in some ways, but also very wise and intelligent. I mean, she figured out what he was doing pretty quick. But but at the same time, she was still nice enough that I mean, she could have humiliated him, when she realized he was pulling the stuff he was pulling. But no, she's just a really nice, sweet person. And the picture you have behind you, even just the way she talks with with her compadre there, the fellow police officer, he's saying, "Yeah, I wrote down DLR. I figured he must have stopped." And she goes, "I'm not sure I agree with your police work there. I think that was stood for dealer."
Yeah,
And
this scene really establishes how sharp she is
yes, yep,
because, like, she points out the dealer plates that point,
yep.
uh, and then like she just looks at the crime scene and like
Yep.
analyzes the whole thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she figures out right off just exactly how that occurred. And
Mhm.
like I said, she's sharp. She's sharp as a tack. And yeah, absolutely. And even right down to capturing the that guy was bad news. And of course, when she catches him, look where she catches him. He's right in the middle of pushing Steve Buscemi's foot into the wood chipper, and cutting him up and with the axe, and putting him in the wood chipper, and she catches him just right, and nails him, and that was all her good police work. She was cruising that area looking for that car, and damned if she didn't find them. But
So, so I don't know if you chose this movie because, much like our last movie, Serial Mom, if
yeah,
you'll recall, started out with the words saying this is based on a true story,
yes, yep,
as does Fargo.
yes, and
And well, that is patently not true.
oh
It
yeah,
was not based on a true story. It was inspired by a true story.
was it inspired by a truth?
It was inspired by the murder of Hella Crafts.
Okay,
And so this is a woman that was going to divorce her husband.
yep,
She was a Danish flight attendant
okay,
married to a pilot, and she had evidence. She hired a private investigator because she suspected him of having an affair. And indeed, this private investigator got evidence that he was indeed having an affair.
yeah, yeah,
He confronted him,
right,
was going to get a divorce. It would have cost him a lot of money.
huh, yeah, oh yeah,
And so she abruptly disappears.
right, right,
And
wow,
so during the investigation, they find that this guy had receipts for a brand new freezer, a
okay,
brand new chainsaw and
Yeah.
a wood chipper wrench.
It's funny because I didn't know this about that it was inspired by this story, but I actually think I remember hearing, it was in the news about the story. I think I actually remember hearing the murder story, but I did not know it was, what brought this on. It's funny because talking with Alicia, and of course Alicia did go to film school and learned a lot about the industry and works in the industry. Um, but but yeah, she was talking about how the parameters are for based on a true story. And I mean, people always get really fascinated when they see it's kind of, I mean, it's probably now people are a little bit more jaded, so they don't necessarily believe, okay, it's because it's been used probably more than it should be, but you have a lot of leeway.
Yep.
A lot of movies like The Strangers, the movie The Strangers, which also there's a French film called Ils, or them, is it? Yeah, also them, the translation, but it's the same movie basically. Hollywood remade it as The Strangers, and that one in both movies, I believe it starts out saying this is based on a true story.
Mhm.
And while they had a lot of leeway with that because it's loosely based on a number of murders, including the Manson murders and a number of other ones. They named several other famous murder cases that they based it on. So there wasn't an actual case of this particular couple, blah blah blah. So yeah,
During my research, my looking into this,
yeah,
I found a quote from Joel Coen.
really, yeah,
Yeah, he said, and I quote, the basic events are the same as in the real case, but the characterizations are fully imagined. Audience believes that something's based on a real event. It gives you permission to do things they might otherwise not accept.
right, right. Well, and yeah, that's definitely true because if you can actually pull up and say, well, in this story that this is based on, they actually did this. So yeah, because people will find exception on certain things.
Will they? I mean, like, I gotta say, I've seen, again, this just might be me and my media overload, but I see based on true events so often that I
Yeah,
just discount it.
yeah, I do too. I do too.
And so I'm wondering if someone has done any research into this phenomenon.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it believe me, it it happens as a, talking about the the movie, our last one there with Joan Crawford there, Straight Jacket.
Yep.
It's it's a gimmick, like I mean, we went into a lot of things about the how he would use gimmickry for to enhance his movies, and it's a
Mm.
gimmick. And it's probably an overused gimmick now. When the Coen brothers used it, I don't think it was being used quite as much. So, but yeah, and again, it does put something in your head. I think the Blair Witch Project did the same thing with, they put those words in front. I mean, look at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre had a whole
Mm.
thing, and that one was loosely based
Yep.
on a true story.
Mm.
It was based on that Texas killing there that I can't think of his name right now,
Ed
but
Gein.
Gein, yes, Ed Gein,
Yeah.
and yeah, and
Little
believe me, he
embarrassed,
was.
I know.
Oh yeah, well, Ed Gein actually. Well, a lot of people know Ed Gein's name. He's. I mean, he made lampshades out of his victims. The stuff that was actually in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that were actually in Ed Gein's home. I mean, he was one creepy individual. So,
So let me say one negative about Fargo.
okay,
Fargo is the reason I don't rewatch movies.
really,
It, it's a beautiful film. The acting top notch. You couldn't ask for a better cast. I've
Yeah.
already talked about the framing, the camera work is amazing. It's a beautifully shot film. But I can remember when I first saw it, part of the excitement is wondering what was going to happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And on a rewatch, now that I know what's going to happen, the story is just sort of it doesn't factor into the enjoyment because I already know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, to an extent that that is true. However, there's so many movies that I love and I love to rewatch that for me, um, I start enjoying other factors about the movie.
Yeah.
And with Fargo, there's so much to enjoy.
Mhm.
And some of it is Frances McDormand's performance, some of it is Buscemi's, all of the smaller parts of different various people and how brilliantly they were cast and put into the film. I mean, just there's so many things about the music is such a bleak, haunting music that is played throughout this movie. That music really sets a mood and a tone, and it's just constant. It's almost like a weight hanging over you between look. I mean, look at the sky behind Frances McDormand and her co-pilot there.
Mhm.
They yeah, I mean it's just gray, white,
Right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's and then and everything is like that. But I start paying attention to those little things, or like some funny joke or some little thing. Um, it's I'll tell you a movie, an iconic classic movie, horror movie that everybody pretty much now knows the ending to, or knows what happens in the movie, and that's the movie Psycho.
Mhm.
So a lot of times people will say, "Oh, that well, that movie was ruined because I knew what was going to happen," and well, if you just look at it on the surface of, "Oh, we're going to watch a movie where a woman gets killed in a shower," if that's all you're going to watch the movie for, then you're not going to get as much enjoyment out of it. What you're watching that movie for is how beautifully shot that was by Alfred Hitchcock, for one thing. He's the way he set up scenes, the way he drew you into the movie, and the casting is absolutely terrific between Janet Leigh and Anthony Perkins. I mean, my God, in real life, he kind of lived that role. If you read about his actual upbringing and how he was raised, and he had a very strange relationship with his mom, and it incapacitated him a lot for many years. But he really knew that part. And if you're watching him in different scenes, you can see he's really pulling the madness out. And so I mean the scene there's a scene there where he's eating peanuts and he's talking to and the guy's kind of like just badgering him to see if he can get a reaction. And you can see him, he's right on the breaking point. And like I said, that's a good example of why I would rewatch a movie like this or like a or Psycho. It's like there's so much more to it. Don't just watch it for that shower scene. There's so much more to that movie. And
And
the same,
and you're absolutely right. And you're not alone. Lots of people would agree with you.
yeah.
But I'm just saying,
Oh,
personally,
yeah. I
it's hard for me to rewatch a lot of movies.
Dude, I get it. I get it. And there's some movies that it's funny. I love Spielberg and I love the movies that he's done. There are some movies of his that I'm not going back to Schindler's List. Not anytime. I mean, I would, I would if I knew somebody had never seen it and wanted to see it,
Mhm.
and just because I will help people along with movies a lot of times and inspire them to watch something. So that's the only way you'd get me to watch Schindler's List again. It was painful. It's a beautiful movie. It's such a sad movie. I mean, I
Mhm.
was sobbing at the end of that when they were showing the all the people that he had saved and how many people, the grandchildren and children from the survivors, the people he had saved, and he was, the scene where he's saying this ring. If I'd sold this ring, I could have saved, 10 more people. If I and he was really like emotional about like he could have done more. And that's the thing. It's a heavy movie, and so like I said, I love that movie. I mean, truly love the movie, but my God, I don't think I could. I'm not gonna freely sit down and watch it again. So yeah,
Yeah, let's watch Schindler's List.
well, that's it. It's. I mean, it's a fantastic movie. I highly
Mhm.
recommend it if you haven't seen it. But just like I highly recommend this. But I'll sit and watch this once a year if I had somebody to watch it with. But Schindler's List, no. I'll do that more because I'm trying to help somebody else out. Not it's a tough movie. So, but
Okay,
yes,
let me do my job and pull out some trivia.
yes, yeah.
Did you know Bruce Campbell was in Fargo?
No, no, and what I'm trying to think now, you really have me stumped.
It's a blink and you'll miss it scene.
Yeah,
So near the end of the movie, Steve Buscemi gets shot in the face,
yes, yep.
comes back to the cabin,
Oh, okay,
and the partner, he's telling the partner he wants the car.
right.
The partner is watching TV. There is a scene on TV that Bruce
Okay,
Campbell is
okay,
one of the actors in.
okay. Yeah, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, that's one of the things that I actually really enjoy in movies. I love it when a director will have something playing, on a TV or a movie screen, and it's some movie that you know and love. And yes, an actor shows. No, I didn't notice it, probably because the
Why
performances
would
were
they do?
so good, and the scene was tense enough when he was saying, I'm taking the car. I got shot in the face.
Blood's
There's the
been
scene right
spilled.
there. Yeah, and he goes, "Are we clear on this?" And he pulls his jacket aside to show
Yep.
his gun, and then he stupidly, with a guy as dangerous as that, you don't turn your back on the guy. I would have walked out of that place. First of
Yep.
all, I would have said he already had all that extra money. So I would have said, all right, I'll pay you half of the car. And I would have thrown some money down. What,
Right.
you know, I mean, and then I'm taking the car. But at the same time, the guy was probably thinking, I don't have a ride out of here. There's a dead body laying on the floor because he'd already killed the wife. And so he needed to ride out of there. What was he going to do? Walk? So there was no way he was going to let him leave.
Mhm.
So I mean, he was actually pushing it way too far. The fact that he died in that scene, I'm not. If you had told me the plot, I would have said, "Yeah, you're going to die there, buddy. Don't push
Exactly.
that one." So, as it was, even just getting out of the whole thing with what he had, for the money that he had all that extra money. Now I'm wondering whether, because in the TV series, I believe it starts out with you see a guy hiding a suitcase with, or some kind of briefcase, something with money in it, and I believe that that's supposed to be Steve Buscemi, and he's hiding it along that fence line because he's going back to tell the guy, yeah, you know, I got the money and this is it. It's whatever it was, 80 grand. So yeah, like I said, I think that's probably what that was supposed to represent. But
Okay. Trivia number two.
okay.
Uh, Another movie to watch if you're really, really into Fargo
Yeah.
is Kumiko the Treasure Hunter.
Okay. I
So
That name is familiar, but I haven't seen the movie.
evidently, this woman, Kumiko,
Yep.
from Japan,
Yep.
Japanese,
I love Japanese cinema. I love Japanese cinema.
saw Fargo, and this is an urban legend,
Yep.
was under the impression that was a real story and that there was still $1 million out there unclaimed.
Oh, really? Wow.
So what actually happened is this woman came to America and was found, and I don't know if it was North Dakota or Minnesota, but she was found dead in the snow, bottle of alcohol near her.
Wow.
And it's officially been ruled a suicide.
Wow. Wow.
But the urban legend was that she came out because she saw Fargo and was looking for the $1 million, and someone
Wow.
made a
Wow.
movie about that.
Wow. Wow. That, yeah, I'm gonna have to that's great. I'm gonna have to check that out. That sounds very fun to watch.
I mean, that's why I love researching and reading into these things, because I had never heard about this.
Yeah, yeah.
And this
No,
is
I will absolutely check that out. I actually was thinking you were talking about a movie maybe that was kind of like similarly based movie or something, but like on a similar crime. But yeah, that's actually really that's a neat thing to check out. I'm gonna have to definitely watch that. Uh,
I
that
mean,
sounds
this is
fun.
this is one of the reasons I watch so many movies is that I'll
Yeah.
see this movie and I'll look into it, and then I'll find this whole other movie that I will have to track
Oh
down.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's one of the things I find about movies that are they're so fun and one of the big draws with movies is one movie leads you to another because if you're watching movies and you see a movie and someone tells you, well, that was actually a remake of, it's like looking at a movie like The Magnificent Seven, and then someone tells you, well, that was based on the Seven Samurai, and you're like,
Exactly.
huh? And you've never heard of the Seven Samurai, and you're like, what? It's so it's or just that maybe one director was very heavily influenced by another director, which they all are. I mean, everybody gets their inspiration from each other, and cinema grows. And look at early vampire movies, and and Nosferatu, the original vampire movie. There it's there's tons of movies that just connect you to something else, and to me, that's one of the big things that gives me the happy feeling about movies.
Mhm.
So truly. So yeah, uh, and this scene here, I I have to say, the whole thing where this went so wrong, and first of all, the very fact that he was driving with no plates in the car, it's like really, you know, you you've got a woman in the back seat of the car you've kidnapped, and you've got no plates in the car. It's like you're asking to be stopped, you know,
Well, I mean,
and
no one is a genius in this movie.
no, no, not at all. No, I mean, neither one of those guys uh, thought to put the dealer plates on the car, or what, whatever it was. Because yeah, I guess they had dealer plates. So it's like, really, you don't put the plates in the car, and you got a woman in the back seat tied up and kidnapped. And I mean, so there's that, and then just even the way he handled it. I don't know if anybody, I don't know if you do, but I don't know if anybody, that whole thing with taking a 50 or 100 or whatever and sticking it up with your license. I don't know. I'm sure there's some cop somewhere that's taking the money and maybe lets you go. But I don't think that happens very often anymore. There's too many cameras. And I mean, yes, back then there wasn't the cell phones. They weren't wearing the body cams, but still, you never know when you're going to get in, entrapment, and cops don't know it either. So,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, maybe back in the 50s, you know, somebody
yeah.
might,
I have never heard of it actually happening.
yeah. The closest I've ever heard to it, I remember talking to my buddy Walt. He was riding on a back road in, I believe, Georgia, which is probably a great place for it to happen. And a cop
This
pulled him
sounds like the
over.
start of a movie in and of itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, believe me, I can tell you a couple of stories like that. but but no, he got pulled over by a backwoods Southern cop, and the cop said, "Hey, I've got relatives in the South. I'm not bitching at the South or anything. So, but he got pulled over by a cop in a small town, and the cop said, "This is how we do it here." And he said, "You pay me." And yeah, so Walt said he was just as happy.
Yeah.
He said he gave the guy, I don't know what it was. The guy asked for like $50. He gave him the 50 and he rode away. And he said, he said, I thought to myself, hey, it's over with. I don't have to, I don't have to send in the money. It's all, he said, I was just
I don't know when that was, but that sounds cheap.
probably the early 80s, I think probably, and maybe late 70s, something like that. But yeah, so, but yeah, that's a funny story of road stories like that. But yeah, putting that money up like that, and then the guy's like, "Okay, could you step out of the vehicle, sir?" And of course, that leads to the other guy going, "Hey, you said you were going to take care of it." And, now you got a dead cop by the side of the road, and it just led to this whole crazy. I mean,
Well, that's the depressing part of this movie is
oh
like
my God, yeah,
filled with desperate people, and you see them just spiraling downward, backing
yeah,
them more and more into a corner. And yeah, there's comedic elements, there are things that are funny, but there's also the sense of anxiety. The walls are
oh
closed.
yeah. Well, it's to tell you the truth, the very fact that they added the comedy, the fact that it's very black comedy, but the very fact that they added that, this movie would have been shoot yourself in the head, depressing, had they not had those elements of comedy, because it was the back and forth between these two, and even the sarcastic thing of, yeah, you said you were going to handle it. And it's like, wow. And then of course the couple coming along, and the guy, his face as he's looking at the car with this, it's like, why don't you advertise that you saw what happened there? I mean, I would have kept my head straight. I would have kept driving. And the other thing is him taking off like that at such, he was like, really, you're gonna, on an icy road like that, you're gonna get into a, you know. So yeah, the whole thing was just, a disaster. But and of course, ultimately that is why they got caught, and
Yeah.
ultimately why, because they committed a really bad evil act there, uh, triple act actually, because they killed three innocent people, the cop, the girl in the car, and the guy who tried to run. uh, but yeah, quite a story, and everything that possibly could go wrong goes wrong. so, so, but yeah, and of course at the end you're left with the couple, and this is another good example. Like I said,
Yeah.
you were talking earlier about they're always together, and that this is such a sweet scene. I mean, that's when she says, "We're going to be okay," and I mean, they really were.
Position for the whole
Uh,
movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, it was all about, I mean, the two people. You could say the wife was more of an innocent than the wife that gets kidnapped, but but and maybe the little kid who just wants to play hockey. And boy, his life was destroyed.
Oh
his
my
mo-
God.
his mother's killed. His mother's killed, and his father is arrested for the kidnapping and eventual. Well, he didn't murder her, but he might as well have. So yes, the only two people in this movie that you really, yeah, you feel so much for are these two. I mean, just total sweet characters.
So some people give their movie ratings in stars, some give it in thumbs up. We're gonna
Mhm.
have to give it in years of therapy. Certain characters won't need.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. But I'll tell you what, this movie will always be a real favorite of mine. I love the movie, and I love the Coen brothers. I actually, it's like, make more, please make more, because every movie they've made, Miller's Crossing, No Country for Old Men, on and on, Burn After Reading. I mean, on and on. Their movies are just great. And even when one of their movies is um, maybe not one of your pure favorites, you still remember their movies and you still love their movies, or I do. And I think many other people feel the same.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
th-
this is not the last Coen Brothers movie we're going to be talking about.
no, absolutely not. I mean, I just mentioning Miller's Crossing makes me want to pull that up. It's, they're just, they're movies. You as soon as you mention the name of a Coen Brothers movie, it brings you, images are in your eyes, your head, of like, oh my God, yes, that movie, that was a great movie. And um and again, this movie here, I truly love it. And yeah, I get what you're saying about rewatchability. I agree with you to a point. It's just that for me, um,
It's a masterpiece.
yeah. And the other thing, it helps. I have, I probably have a little bit of short-term memory loss when it comes to movies, because it's funny. I'll watch, like, sometimes I'll watch a trailer, and some trailers give you just enough to allow you to, like, oh, that looks like a good movie. I'll watch that. Other ones will play every one of the best scenes, and it's like, really? But the great thing, because of the way my mind works, I tend to shut, even though I might watch it and take it in, I tend to, like, I'm able to blank it out when I actually sit down to watch it. And so those things aren't like directly in my head. So call it short-term memory loss, or whatever. But yeah, like I said, this movie here, I kind of, it was probably 3 to 5 years since I'd seen this.
Mhm.
Um, I knew the movie, but like, there were things that, it was like opening windows or doors. I'd see certain scenes and I'd be like, oh yeah, you remember a line, or what, something, a facial expression, whatever. There was something that just, like, was new to me. So that's why I revisit movies. But yeah, I do get it. Especially certain ones that maybe, like, or like when you're watching, and the shame of how good the Coen brothers are is that I think that the imagery of their movies sticks in your mind more than other directors, or a lot of directors, you
Mhm.
know. So that's probably maybe what spoils that for you, to
They're
rewatch it.
on it, and that's the thing. Like I've got a horrible memory. Ask anyone that knows me. One thing that I almost have a picture perfect memory of
Yeah,
is movies and TV shows.
yeah, yeah,
Someone can mention something I saw 20 years ago, and I'll
yeah,
probably be able to tell you the whole thing.
yeah. I mean, to a degree, I sometimes I have trouble. I mean, anyone watching this channel probably sees that, but sometimes it's like, an actor's name or a year or something like that. I'll be like, wait a minute, what was that? And I'm trying to pull it up. But yeah, scenes for movies, I do tend to, especially a director, or directors, like, director and producer, actually, the Coen brothers. But I do tend to, their scenes are like, they really stick in my head. And so I think that a great director, a great movie maker will do that for you. You can recall a scene and you're like, oh my God, that scene. And you remember so many details from the scene. But yeah, well, we both love movies, so
It's true. And I gotta say, I think we've worshipped the Coen brothers enough. It might
yeah,
be time to put this to bed.
yeah. Well, you can never worship the Coen brothers enough. But yes, I agree. I think it is. And we, actually, the scene of, the couple behind me, that's the final scene in the movie. And again, and it's a nice way that they wrap the movie up too, because for all of the harsh, scenes that you saw, for all of the brutality that you saw in it, that kind of, like, at least gives you some kind of, you know, that was, it was, but yeah, it's a nice way to fade out, and for us to fade out, as well. But but for better or worse, we will be back again next week.
We'll be
And
back in a week, and I've got something particularly dark in mind.
nice, nice. I'm happy about that. um, we like our dark ones as well as the light ones. So that's awesome. And yeah, Dom, again, we have to say it. Leave a like and subscribe, people, please,
Right.
if you would. That helps us out, helps us to continue and show your support. Leave comments, even if they're negative ones. We love the positive ones when we get them, but like I said, please comment. Give us ideas for other movies. Actually, somebody that I know gave me an idea for a movie, which I will be using probably for my next pick. But yeah, so or at least maybe one down from that. But Dom, the next one's on you, buddy. So
Yep. Yep. I've already got it in mind.
good, good. So Dom, I had a great time as always, believe me, I love this time talking with you and sharing our mutual love of movies and believe me, like I said, I had fun with this one. I have fun with all of them, but anyway, everyone, we'll see you guys next week.
See you in a
Dom,
week.
yeah, take care. So long.